At the corner of 16th and Georgetown in Speedway, Indiana, lies the famed Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where this weekend the 2021 Pirelli GT4 America season reaches its checkered flag. Hello everyone, welcome to the racing capital of the world. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside in the booth. Just 2 races left. Championships have been decided, but if last year is any indication, this IMS road course is a perfect fit for GT4 cars, Cal.
Well, we saw some fireworks here last year, Ryan. We expect the same here this afternoon. There's a lot on the line in terms of the minor placings in the championship standings, and there's also some great storylines that we're going to get to a little bit later.
Let's go on down and check in with some of the storylines on the grid. Earlier today, Amanda Busick caught up with the Murillo Racing duo.
Well, the Murillo Racing team comes into Indianapolis as driver champions in the silver class in GT4. And Kenny, when you think of the season at hand, it wasn't without adversity that you guys won this championship. How did you push through those moments and get it done?
Yeah, I just had all the confidence in the world in our team. I knew that we could do it. This is something we just needed to execute, and really happy with the team. I think this is just the results that we all work hard for, and definitely want to dedicate this championship to my new nephew, my beautiful sister, just is about to have a baby, so dedicating this championship to him.
Well, Christian, when we think of this championship, you guys were able to wrap it up, a whole event earlier in Sebring. What allowed you to dominate?
Well, I think we had good preparation. Our team was, from race 1, I think, ready to get out of the blocks and drive fast. So we did, I think we did what we sought to do from race 1, came, executed well. And I think, we weren't always the fastest car out there, but I think it was our preparation and execution that kind of, brought us home. So we were able to do it through good preparation and hard work together. This team is great to be a part of, and it's a nice family atmosphere with Kenny and his dad. So it's great to be a part of this team. So we're super happy.
Congratulations to your 2021 champions.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
Thanks.
Silver class champions for the season. Still some work yet to do. They want to close out on a high, Calvin. Good qualifying effort for this race from Kenny Murillo. They will start 4th in that bright orange Mercedes-AMG GT4.
Yeah, and as Christian alluded to, they got off the blocks quickly, 5 wins plus 4 podium runs this year, so that's why they have been crowned the champions early, but they've certainly had some threats from a number of teams, and this is the team that's been hot. They're currently 3rd in the points, looking to break through and get runner-up, had a couple of wins on the year, and this is a special race weekend for this team. Classic BMW going away after this race. The franchise has been sold, but the Fast Track Racing team will return for next season, so that's the great news.
It is, yes. The dealership has been sold, but this race team that's operated under that name for so many years and had so much success set to continue into 2022 and beyond, but you can see some changes there with Fast Track Racing on the side of that car. And another car in the silver class, Calvin, that's really come on strong late is the one that will start 2nd overall in this race. That's Conquest Racing West, which made its debut at Road America. The silver Mercedes to the right of the screen. Mackay Stevens turned in a great qualifying performance to start 2nd overall, and he and Colin Mullen have quickly turned into a potent pairing.
Unbelievable. 4th and 3rd on the opening weekend, followed that up with a pair of runner-up finishes, and then 2 wins. Swept the weekend at Sebring. Looking for even more here today.
Exactly so. So as mentioned, number of championships already decided. This is another one of them. The Pro-Am title went to this car and the driver pairing of Jason Hart and Matt Travis back at Sebring. And Calvin, we talked about it then. This one was a long time coming. 2 near misses in the last 2 seasons, and this time they get the ticket punched and they do it early.
They do. 5 wins on the bounce to start the season, and then they swept at Sebring to really put the icing on the cake, and they're way ahead of everyone else. And when you think about the competition level and the standard of the drivers in this class, that is really a remarkable statement for that whole team.
Rolled off very quickly at the start of the season, rattled off all those wins, and never looked back, did not relinquish that points lead here in the 2021 season. Should also mention the AM Class champions, brand new team, Smooth Racing, with Kevin Conway and John Jesbray. They've been excellent, winning at least 1 race in class each weekend of the season so far, and they've got a great qualifying effort.
Here.
But yes, this is some
Capstone
drama
car, I think.
for the Capstone car that was qualified third overall. The pole sitters in the AM class, Chris Wilson set to start, and we saw him pull into his pit box here as they leave to go out on the first of 2 formation laps. This is not what this team was looking for.
Well, he felt something amiss there, so they got the mechanic in there in the foot box trying to figure out what's going on, and he's out of the car. That looks like day may be over.
Not good news at all for one of the front-running AM-class cars, as has been the case all season. But John Barry was set to be joining Chris Wilson behind the wheel of that car. It's primarily been John Allen doing the co-driving duties. This, though, is the champion-elect pairing of Kevin Conway and John Jesbray. Brand new team, but with some big-time help behind the scenes with Tony Ave's group helping to run that operation, Calvin. And they've capped off this season in style, winning the championship early. They're using this weekend, though, as a chance to see where they stack up relative to the competition in the other classes. We know they will not be an AM-class pairing next year based on the success they've had.
Well, a great team, a great driver lineup, 7 wins on the year, and you're right, they're looking at that next step. It's going to be a big one up to the Pro-Am class, potentially, or Silver class, depending on how Kevin Conway gets graded for next season. So I think Bill Riley has got great support with the Tony Ave Racing Group there, and just a brilliant season. That Toyota Supra is a lovely little race car, great platform, seems to be easy on the tires, and very strong so far this season.
Starting grid up on the screen. Keep an eye out for your favorite team and driver. But we should spend a moment talking about this IMS road course. It's a slightly different road course configuration than when we were here the last time, Calvin, and it sounds like as long as you're not driving a BMW, that's welcome news. The BMW camp wasn't quite as thrilled.
Well, when you get to turn 5, it sort of changes direction there. There's a couple of twists and turns to before you head up on the Hulman Boulevard again. So this is the sector we're looking at. So before you'd kind of go straight across the top of the screen through a very fast chicane. Now you come through that right-hander into a sort of like a sweeping left, but the key's to set up. And that turn 6A, this one you're just looking at in the horizon there, that is really a key corner onto Hulman Boulevard. You want to carry a lot of speed through there, so it's important to get the power down, have the car change direction through there. So BMW is a little bit better on the long, fast swooping corners versus the quick change of direction stuff, but it's also got good torque off the corner, so I don't think they're too worried about it. I think the big thing this weekend may be tire degradation by adding those few corners into the mix. The Aston Martins this weekend have a bit more power, but a lot more weight, so adding those corners could play into the tire degradation factor here, but very cool conditions, nice race conditions here this weekend.
All in all, it comes out to 14 corners, 2.59 miles is the course distance using that additional loop at the beginning of the lap, and then this duck into the infield as well. This actually turn 1 and turn 2 and into the beginning of the infield section at the front part of the course. This is the second of 2 formation laps here before we take the green flag in the penultimate round of the championship for Pirelli GT4 America. If you're new to the championship, the race format, it's a 2-driver format, 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop in the middle. But Calvin, no tire changes, no refueling, just that driver change during the pit stop. But nevertheless, as simple as it may sound, we've seen that driver change in the pit stop decide races.
It certainly does, and most of these teams are well versed now. It's the end of the year, so you've kind of knocked off the rough edges in terms of your strategy and how efficient you are on pit lane. But this is where the lower graded driver starts in the Pro-Am driver lineup. So typically we see the window is between 25 and 35 minutes into this race when the mandatory pit stop has to happen. And with this Pro-Am lineup, you typically see the amps coming a little bit earlier for day 1. When the pros start tomorrow, they'll stay a little bit deeper into the race.
Keep an eye on that strategy as it plays out, but it's about go time here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Lamborghini Urus safety car has started to accelerate away just that little bit. This is oval 1 and 2 on the south end of the racetrack. Then this dive here back into the infield for a quick switch back. This was first put into this road course configuration for when MotoGP came to IMS many years ago, but has been incorporated into the road course layout for cars ever since. getting ready to go, but maybe a bit of confusion missing the capstone car, Calvin, as to where these cars should line up.
Yeah, I think Murillo's unsure whether he needs to slide over to that third position, and James Clay needs to leave that slot open. So before they get to the acceleration run, there needs to be a gap. He's going to be on early. Clay will be starting from what will be now the fourth position, and he's very aggressive on these opening laps.
Tom Hansing on the picture-in-picture box there. He's no stranger to this flag stand. He's flagged several Indianapolis 500s, and he throws the green on the second-to-last round of the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. The field accelerating down towards the braking zone in turn one. Great getaway from the pole sitter, Stephen McAleer, but it's side-by-side behind.
Yeah, and as so often we've seen this year, you get McAleer up on the front row and he kind of takes off like a scalded cat. Everyone kind of tiptoeing here through these early corners. Tire temps aren't quite there yet. That's the 34 machine, middle of the pack there. That's James Walker in the red line oil BMW.
Just a little bit off track, but able to wrangle it back. Looks like 3 wide further back into the sequence through turns 1, 2, and 3. Now this is the run towards that new loop, 5, 6, and 6A, that crucial corner that will take them onto the Holman Boulevard.
Everyone kind of settling in right now, feeling their way through. Haven't raced this sector before for most of the drivers in the field here this weekend, so they got to kind of find their way. You can see they're allowed to use all of that concrete area off to the exit of 6A. But up front, McAleer, big deep dive there. That's Tim Barber in the 22. He runs wide.
That opens the door up there for James Clay to jump through and move into the second spot, and it bunches the field up behind. Big change there, but it's all behind Stephen McAleer, who continues to lead. Now this is a battle here between the Conquest racing car of Mackay Stevens. That's the silver Mercedes. He's got the Dexter racing car of Warren Dexter to the outside. Give the spot to Dexter.
Yeah, and they're P4 in the championship right now, only 2 points behind P3, so they're on the attack, and I think the reason we saw Tim Barber going for it, he's got to certainly have a big day here, otherwise that 11 car that leads this race could take over as we see the 79 with drama here early.
That's Chris Gumprecht, I believe, behind the wheel of a car he shares with Kyle Marcelli, and we go full course yellow here just 2 minutes into the race. Chance to see who made the biggest gains here at the start, but that's heartbreaking for the Rintec Motorsports team, Calvin, that's had so many difficulties, really not of their making as this season has gone along. A lot of heartbreak for them with crashes and mechanical issues, and never really a chance to show their true potential.
Yeah, and been a bit of a surprise actually, because Marcelli is an ace in one of these cars, won a GT4 championship at North America last year, so we expected more certainly.
We heard from Amanda Busick earlier in the show. She'll be back with us later in the weekend, but filling in ably down in the pit lane for us here this afternoon is Kyle Heyer. Welcome to the broadcast, Kyle.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks. The number 16 was driven by Chris Wilson for Capstone Motorsports, but that car did not leave pit lane. It has a broken pedal box adjuster. So the team tells me that they're going to replace it, but they're going to start a couple laps down with Chris Wilson behind the wheel.
Wow, that had to be dramatic. You put your foot on the gas pedal and suddenly the whole pedal box probably slid forward. That's why he jumped out. He realized Chris is not the tallest guy in the world, so he wasn't going to be reaching those pedals when they're deep into that foot box.
This yellow might help them at least a little bit, not losing quite as much ground while they make that fix in the pit lane. This is Gumprecht coming to a halt.
If there's another car involved here, because I'm surprised that it looks like the left rear is kind of taking a bit of a hit. Didn't look to be at the right toe in there on the left rear. I'm not sure if anyone else was involved. They went yellow very quickly, didn't they? Rather than waiting to see if that car was going to get back underway.
While we're behind the safety car, it is Stephen McAleer, the pole sitter, who continues to lead. The big mover on that opening lap, though, Calvin, was James Clay. He was very opportunistic, able to pick up a couple of spots, going up 3 positions overall. He's also the leader in Pro-Am.
Yeah, and as I said before the start, he's typically very aggressive on the opening laps, but it wasn't so much that. I think that was the aggressive move by Tim Barber that kind of opened up the door for James to take advantage of.
Now, good start from him. You could see a couple of BMWs there, back-to-back, 2 of the classic teams, pun intended. Classic BMW, now Fast Track Racing and Bimmer World right there. They've been campaigning BMWs against one another for a very long time.
Yeah, and it's kind of fun to see that rivalry between 2 big teams that are using the same brand and manufacturer, of course, so you can come up on top today. But since this 11 car appeared on the scene a little bit later in the season, they've certainly been a factor, it seems, every single weekend.
Now looking at the running order, and it's Mackay Stevens who was perhaps the biggest loser there, dropping a couple of spots in the second Mercedes to come through the picture. We'll have at least one more lap behind the safety cars. The Lamborghini Urus remains on the racetrack. Pretty good start as well, though, it must be said, for Matt Travis, the champion-elect in Pro-Am. Able to jump up a spot. He's now in 8th. We were, I think, both surprised to see him qualify as far down in the order as he did. But this is a pairing certainly to watch. They've had some success in the past, of course, coming close to those championships. They don't have to race with the championship weight on their shoulders here, though, this weekend.
They don't. They've got an unassailable lead there, so they're in great shape. But you certainly want to finish off the season on a high. You don't want to have a championship win, 7 wins on the year, and go out with a whimper, so you know they're going to want to try and get back up in the top standings there.
Had a pole and a second place finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway 1 year ago. They seem to think that this different track layout might be to their benefit when I spoke to them earlier on in the weekend.
Also a bit of a manufacturer battle going on, even though all of the drivers' titles have been sealed in all 3 classes. Porsche lead BMW by just 15 points, so that is still very much up for grab. There's a 7-point swing between first and second, and 2 races here this weekend.
And a couple of BMWs out in front at the moment, with the top Porsche being that Matt Travis car running back in 8th. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on here in both of these races still to come here today. What a thrill it is for so many of these drivers to get the chance to race at this famed speedway. You think about the history, and of course you think first about the oval, built in 1909, and for many years that was the only show in town. But if you go back to the early days, the initial design for this track actually involved an infield road course, going all the way back to the first decade of the 20th century. That was something they planned, never got around to doing because they had so many issues with paving on this circuit. But it's kind of neat to see that it took 80 years, but they did get that dream realized in Formula 1 race, tier MotoGP, IndyCar and NASCAR now all racing on the road course here too, and it seems fitting to have sports cars as part of the program.
It does, and it races well. By that I mean there's good overtaking opportunities. It asks a lot from the driver and the race car in terms of you need straightaway speed, you need to be able to carry speed through some of these long duration corners, but also you need change of direction, braking ability. So it asks a lot of the whole car, and towards the end of the race, certainly, if you get any tire degradation, then you're going to see some more places on the track where people can make some moves. Here we see Mackler getting ready for this restart.
He's got everybody bunched up behind him. Now he puts that pedal down and accelerates towards the yard of bricks, and the green flag once again flies over the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Stephen Mackler leading James Clay. Kenny Murillo running in second, but coming under pressure. Already forced to take a defensive line into turn 1. Mackay Stevens pokes the nose to the outside. It's 2 by 2 in the battle for 3rd as well as the battle for 5th.
You can see there Mackay took it in really deep. I think he got into the ABS a little bit. Looked like the front end went numb on it a little bit just as he wanted to turn in. So he lost the front end turn-in ability of the race car. Barber, a nice start up there, grabs another spot after that first lap, little miscue down in turn 7.
It's the blue and pink CCR by TFB BMW that made the pass around the Dexter Racing Aston Martin just a moment ago. The pink accents new on this car going back to Sebring. Certainly there for Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the month of October, but Cole Corallo, Tim Barber's co-driver, his mother also had a brush with cancer as of late. I had a nice chat with Cole earlier this weekend, and sounds like the diagnosis and prognosis is quite promising. But the team unveiled this brand new livery for them at Sebring in honor of his mother, and it brought a smile to a lot of faces.
Well, it's great news that she's doing a little bit better as we now focus on the 35 car here. Mackay Stevens, we talked about what a run they've been on, sweeping the last weekend at Sebring, 2 victories, but 5 podium runs from 6 races. They burst onto the scene mid-season.
Young man from the Chicago suburbs, Mackay Stevens, who might have thought his racing career had passed him by, but was thrown this opportunity in a shootout to try and win one of these 2 seats, and sees that opportunity with both hands. He and Colin Mullen have each been revelations. Not a huge surprise, I suppose, with Colin, given his championship in the silver class in this 1 year ago, but he's adapted to the rules quite quickly. And for Mackay, he's been out of the seat for a long time, but you wouldn't guess it based on the way he races.
This is what must be such a thrill for a lot of these drivers in this field, coming down that front stretch across the yard of bricks. Admittedly, the wrong way compared to the Indy 500, but still, just the whole ambiance and seeing that massive grandstand there is pretty cool.
This is the first of many races on the docket this weekend. It's a jam-packed event, all culminating in the Indianapolis 8-hour on Sunday. Many of these same Pirelli GT4 America teams and drivers, and some of these same cars, in fact, will be participating in that race. But the battle here for second is starting to heat up as James Clay, who was so opportunistic in snagging that spot on the opening lap, has fallen into the clutches of Kenny Murillo.
Well, the Mercedes typically is just really good on the long green flag runs. It's very compliant, has really good balance in the race car, and doesn't seem to use its tires up. But still early in the go, and we've had some yellow already, and we're just over 10 minutes into this 60-minute event. And these tires have to go the whole distance. There's no tire change during that mandatory pit stop for the drivers.
NASCAR Cup Series Rookie of the Year, and now Pirelli GT4 America AM-Class Champion-elect Kevin Conway behind the wheel of this smooth racing Toyota Supra. John Jesbray will be taking over once the driver change happens, and this has been a great performance out of Kevin to qualify the car as well as he did, starting up inside the top 10 and running 7th right now, and very much hanging on to this battle between the silver class cars and the Pro-Am cars up ahead.
Well, it's kind of ironic when he says this is a weekend with the championship already decided. We can see how we really stack up with the rest of the field in terms of the more established classes with the silver and Pro-Am lineups, and he's done that this weekend. I think this is the best qualifying and best early run of the race so far this year.
This is one of the few tracks, Kevin told me, that he has not raced on previously. He has, however, raced the oval. He raced in the Brickyard 400 one time, but this is something completely different. So he's been learning, actually, from John Jesbray, who raced an MX-5 Cup weekend here. And then they've got Jack Hawksworth as their third driver for the 8-hour. He has plenty of experience on this circuit in an Indy car.
It's going to be cool to see Jack Hawksworth. I think he's one of the fastest GT drivers in North America currently. To see him work with Toyota, come back and run one of these cars here this weekend will certainly be an eye-opener, I feel, in terms of for him to adjust and also to showcase his speed to the rest of the paddock, just how quick he is.
Nice scrap here just outside of the top 10 overall. That was Sean Quinlan trying to keep Chris Cagnazzi, that's Tom Capizzi behind him, but back up front here, and James Clay, who continues to run second with a bit of a breathing space now built over Kenny Murillo. Let's get an update from Kyle in the pits.
The Bimmer World number 36 has had an up and down year, but I'm standing here in the pits with Nick Galante. It's a strong start to the race here, but still a long way to go. How has the season been for you? Can you summarize it in just a couple words?
Yeah, it's been up and down. Coming into the series from the other series that I've been racing in, it's been a little tough getting used to, but we've had some up and downs, but we had a nice podium at Road America. Things are clicking well. So we're capitalizing on the first stints here. James Clay's out there running a great job. He's running first in class. So we're looking to capitalize on this first race, which seems to be our strong point, especially for this car in this series. But moving forward, really fun series, and I love the professionalism of the series, especially the BMW and the car that Bimmer World puts on the track. You know, it's pretty good.
A strong start at the Brickyard, guys.
Hi to Erica and my little daughter Andy back home. Thank you.
Nick is a former champion in other series below the GT4 level, but has done a nice job here in his first year racing, as he said, in Pirelli GT4 America. And the last two weekends have been the best of the season so far for this duo. The podium that he referenced, race one at Elkhart Lake, had a fourth in race one the last time out at Sebring. And James Clay certainly knows what he's about, not only running this team, but a veteran driver as well.
Yeah, and big plans. There's rumor they're going to switch it up to GT3 machinery for next year, so we'll have to wait and see what happens there if those plans come to fruition. But it's a great team, and James has an outstanding business alongside that. So the fact that he can run that business and run this race team to such a high level is really a testimony to his multitasking.
Could be some more change coming with the announcement recently, BMW working on a new version of the M4 GT4. We know the M4 GT3 is coming next year, and it sounds like sales of that car have been brisk, but looking ahead to 2023, there should be a new GT4 version of the M4 as well, which I'm sure has a lot of folks excited.
I think it does, and I think the word talking to a couple of competitors in the paddock that it may be even more of a race car. I think this M4 is really based more around the street car and turned into a race car, but with so many of these manufacturers now, they're trying to get a lot of that race car technology and transfer it the other direction.
Let's keep an eye on this fight here. James Clay continuing to hold off Kenny Murillo, who from time to time has been coming under pressure from Mackay Stevens. And the thing I'm interested in seeing is the BMW straight line advantage. Has that been neutered somewhat by the balance of performance from previous rounds? That's been kind of the consensus, that the BMW won't be quite as strong in a straight line. And certainly we didn't see James Clay leg out much of an advantage over Christian Shimshak's co-driver Kenny Murillo.
And you see Shimshak inset on the box there, watching on as his teammate. They're just a great driver pairing, and it's great that Kenny Murillo is getting this opportunity. His dad runs the team. He was an excellent racer himself back in the early 80s in a single-seater competition, but just one of the best in the business in terms of running these race cars. They always seem to be well engineered. Kenny's a great engineer himself, the young driver behind the wheel right now, good with the data and everything else. We see that Aston Martin starting to put some pressure on Tim Barber there. It's a battle for fourth in the silver class right now.
That's right behind this trio. And you're right, Kenny Murillo, when he's not driving, is the team's data engineer, and he would have been in that role when Christian Shimshak won his Sprint X East AM Championship back in 2019. But this is the fight you were talking about. Tim Barber in the blue BMW. He's got the gray and blue Aston of Warren Dexter right behind us. Is a class battle, as mentioned, in the silver category.
And the Dexters started the year with a win and a runner-up finish at Sebring. Went through a bit of a slow patch middle of the year, but they've bounced back. They've had top four finishes in class in the last 4 races, including a couple of podiums.
Impressive little team from Nebraska, not exactly in the heart of what you would consider sports car racing territory. They ran Ginettas for a really long time in Trans Am and in this series too. And actually they have one of the new Ginettas in the paddock racing in GT America. We'll see them later on in the weekend. Race Vision powered by AWS Top Speeds, and it is still a BMW affair as far as the top speeds go, and that's not a huge surprise. Look, that's going to be the advantage of this car. The question is just how big of an advantage it maintains over the rest of the GT4 field.
Yeah, and here you can see Tim Barber there trying to hold on to that position right now. But you see the Aston Martin is carving these corners a little bit more effectively. And again, I think Galante alluded to it, the fact that the first stint, the car's pretty good, and then they're just hanging on towards the end. And that could just come down to the weight of the car and obviously how it handles, and consequently the balance goes away maybe a little bit towards the end of the stint.
Dexter to the outside at the braking zone for Holman Boulevard, and he makes it stick around the outside of turn number 7, but Barber keeps the fight up. He was still alongside before dropping the wheel, and now has to settle back in line.
That's what's so cool about that complete sector between turn 7 and turn 12, how you can kind of run side by side through there and trade punches. Pretty cool piece of racing.
Now this is going to be a crucial sector for the Aston to build the gap, because you would think, especially with the slipstream to work with, that Barber might have
surprised
a shot.
him.
Yes.
That was sweet.
That was right up the inside into turn 13. And now a drag race down the front straightaway where we expect the advantage to be with the BMW.
That was a nice move, and I think if anyone else is watching this race right now, he's running a different class, different championship, they'll probably want to mimic that move, because we didn't see that too often last year.
Oh, here comes Mackay Stevens looking up the inside.
Couldn't quite get there, and Murillo did the right thing, didn't go for the apex, just kind of turned through that corner a little bit wider radius to give Mackay a little bit of racing room, but certainly seems like his car is really strong right now, and is coming on a little bit later in the stint. We expected him to be right with the leaders, but maybe they just got that car set up for the longer run.
Looked like the exit for Murillo might have been compromised. You could see his gloves flashing in the windshield. He had his hands full, and Stevens is unrelenting in his pressure. Battle here for the second position in the silver class. Murillo has it, Stevens wants it.
About 6 minutes from the pit window opening, and again, as we said, the lower graded driver is designated to start this first race, so we may see some Pro-Am combinations make that early pit stop here, probably in about 3 to 4 laps.
And the way the pit stops work, it is a minimum time that you must spend on pit lane, 98 seconds for this particular racetrack. And within that, you have the time that you spend making the driver change.
You lose about 53 seconds, Ryan, coming down pit lane at the correct speed, of course. 2 cars out on the racetrack. And then you're looking at 45 seconds as they allocate every single weekend for these GT4 competitors to get that driver change done. You are allowed to adjust tire pressures, things like that, but you cannot change the tires unless one is damaged.
Yep, you have to be able to prove that. Another internecine BMW battle here a little bit further back in the top 10. James Walker Jr. and Chandler Hull back in the championship had to miss the round at Sebring. They had European commitments in Hungary, I believe, 2 weeks ago, but good to have him and John Miller back.
Walker currently running 3rd in the Pro-Am class. Travis is running 2nd. And James Clay leads that class right now. He's running 2nd overall. Walker and Oberlin have had a lot of pace this year. 1 win, couple of podiums. Probably should have added at least 1 or 2 more to that win column, but things haven't always gone their way. Bill Oberlin, his teammate, is approaching close to 500 races with BMW machinery. I think that number is going to come up in the first quarter of next season. Just an incredible history with that brand.
And all kinds of different cars, too. Everything from prototypes to GT4 cars. Probably some touring car starts mixed in there if you go back far enough. Warren Dexter trying to get that spot back. This is where he got it done the last time, but Barber able to hold him off, and that's bringing Kevin Conway and also Matt Travis into the picture too.
Yeah, very much so. You can see you're just compromising your line to maintain the track position, but it's allowing other cars to get into the mix at the same time.
Maybe Warren learned a little something from Tim. He might be able to repay him back in kind. He is awfully close here, coming back onto the banking in what is the south short chute of the oval. BMW versus Aston Martin, and you can throw Toyota and Porsche into the mix as well.
Yeah, it's a real melting pot with so many manufacturers in this class, and I think from a cost perspective too, it's a real sweet spot with a lot of the gentleman drivers. It's the sort of budgets that they can kind of get to. GT3 racing is obviously a lot more expensive, so I think this is why this class has blossomed. It's been so popular here over the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Car counts right around 30. Give or take a couple, it seems like each and every weekend, and the competition is fierce. You never know what you're going to get week to week and even day to day. It seems like race 1 and race 2 have totally different complexions, as we kind of heard from Nick Galante earlier.
And they're just cool race cars. I mean, so many of the manufacturers done these turnkey platforms, so they're beautiful race cars. They have good downforce. They're very drivable. And in fact, they're able to follow a little bit closer without losing some of the aero efficiency like a GT3 car. So I think that's why we see such spectacular racing week in and week out.
Up front, Stephen McAleer continues to lead by approaching 10 seconds now over James Clay. Then you get to the battle between Clay, Murillo, and company. And Stephen's also in the mix. And then you drop back a few seconds. That's where you find these 4 cars scrapping it out, with Tim Barber holding 5th overall, 4th in silver, 5th overall, or make it 5th in silver, and 6th overall Warren Dexter, then Kevin Conway and Matt Travis.
Tell you what, this is quite the drive here by Stephen McAleer. We've seen it several times this year, but I think he's 37 years old, comes from Scotland, got an opportunity to race over here, and he's just really worked the system well, networks well, great coach, great mentor, and that's why he gets in so many opportunities currently. He's a busy boy. He's running in some prototype championships, a couple of GT championships at the moment, but whenever he's there, he's typically running at the front.
Always fast, that's for sure, and that's been on display ever since this pairing came together in the second round of the championship at Circuit of the Americas. James Clay doing everything he needs to do to keep the Murillo car, the Conquest car behind him. But again, of all the cars, I think the BMW is the one that you worry the most about as far as tire fall off is concerned. And the more pressure he's under, you would think the harder he's pushing those 4 Pirellis.
Well, I mean, what he's trying to do, he's trying to gap the Pro-Am field as far as he can. You got Travis, who I believe is about 7 seconds back. So he's trying to create a gap for Nick Galante, who we spoke to a little bit earlier in this race. So it's then up to Galante to try and hang on to that gap. If they can execute a good, clean pit stop, be close to the minimum time delta, and then it's all about hanging on.
Murillo is close, but not close enough to poke the nose out and make a move. Not so for Warren Dexter. He's coming to the inside, or at least that's what he wants Tim Barber to think. Ultimately has to settle back in line under braking as Barber shuts that door in his face. They're in turn 7.
Barber's really deep on the brakes. They're using everything up. You can see him coming scrambling here. Two Mercedes getting a bit of a run on Clay, and then through the acceleration run, you can see that gap extend just a little bit. Mackay Stevens got a good run on Murillo, but no one where to go with as they turn into turn 12. Fast change of direction. Let's think about what that move that Barber did. What Mackay Stevens could surprise Murillo there on the turning point. Look at that, just that acceleration, and Murillo's right on him. Mackay Stevens is going to get a run here.
And while this is happening, the pit window has opened. Yes, Stevens with a great run. It looked like something might have caught Kenny out just a little bit coming out onto the front straightaway. Side by side here in this battle for the second spot in silver, 3rd overall. Stevens trying to go the long way around, but Murillo keeps him at arm's length.
Yeah, good racecraft there. I think he just checked up a little bit. He got a run on James Clay and then suddenly had to hesitate a little bit as they came through the final corner onto the front stretch, and that allowed Mackay Stevens just to really set him up and just roll through that corner with a bit more apex speed and pick up the draft on the front stretch.
And now it looks like Murillo's been unleashed to go and put the pressure on Clay, at least for the moment. But as I say that, here comes Stevens back into the mix. Couple of takers here in the early going into the pit lane, and Matt Travis was able to hit it. I think he was the first of the front runners who got to that first. That means Jason Hart will take over. That could be a big moment in this race as far as the Pro-Am fight goes.
Yeah, we call that the undercut, and a lot of it will depend on where they come out in traffic. So you know Jason Hart will be up on the wheel quickly, but will he have any clean air to work with whilst these others in his class are trying to fight it out here before they get back to pit lane?
Of this lead group, who do we expect to be the first to come in, Cal?
Well, with the silver lineups, I think Magler will stay out. He's got great pace right now. Murillo to Shimshak, I mean, they got track position. So many of them are so evenly matched. There's really just a toss-up. There's no big delta between the two driver lineups. Clay to Galante. There we see Murillo makes the move for pit lane.
I wonder if he's feeling like he was held up a little bit there, and they wanted to try and find some clean track for him for Shimshak once that move. Once the pit stop takes place. It looked also like Stevens was trying that move to the inside of him too, but that might just have been the Murillo car making the duck down to the pit lane. This fight continues unabated, however. Tim Barber and Warren Dexter with Kevin Conway right behind.
Looking at the minimum pit stop delta here. Matt Travis to Jason Hart. 97.6, so they're underneath the minimum, but by not more than a second, so they can use their 1 second joker. You're allowed one of those each weekend, so they're using it up right now, and I think you're spot on, Ryan. They're trying to take advantage here of trying to do the undercut, as we call it, getting Jason Hart back out there, finding some clean air and cutting some fast laps.
See if that elevates them at all. Here comes the pit stop now for the Murillo Racing crew. That's how long it takes to trundle your way down this pit lane at 50 kilometers per hour. Kenny Murillo getting out and now assisting Christian Shimshak with those belts and the radio plug. There's a whole lot that goes into these pit stops these days. So many things that need to be taken care of, and still not a ton of time to get it done, even with the regulations that are in place.
Yeah, you can see how calm and well rehearsed they seem to be, which is all great until something goes wrong and you can't suddenly get the buckle connected, and then panic starts to set in. See, they got that blower there, just trying to keep those brakes nice and cool. Through the brake ducting there on the front valance. Now it's all about the software that you have set up in these cars. Some have a V-box. They're pretty close to the end there, so there shouldn't be much adjustment there needed to try and hit the number. Let's see what they come across the line at. 98.1, so just 1/10 outside. That's a nice clean stop. But you can see with the length of the pit lane here that's allowed the 11 car to put a lap on them.
And that could be important, potentially, if there were to be a yellow flag. I suppose that would be the incentive to run as deep as possible if you are the leader, because should most of the field fall a lap down, yellow flag comes out, you do your pit stop after everyone gets bunched up, you basically don't lose that track position that you've gained. Here's an interesting moment. James Clay, Mackay Stevens, side by side at the exit of 7. This is 8.
Yeah, and that's where that Mercedes is just carving the corners. I mean, this car looks stronger than the Murillo Racing, the orange machine that just ducked into pit lane. So Conquest Racing West, again, put a great car out there on the track this weekend.
It's been the case all season long, despite the fact they've only come in for the last 3 race weekends. They're already up to 5th in the Silver Championship on the strength of all of those podiums and then a couple of wins going back to Sebring 2 weeks ago.
Just looking at some excellent pit stops, everyone hovering right around the minimum. There's about 4 teams that have ducked underneath the minimum, but using up the joker. No one's out of bounds, so to speak, in terms of going to be getting any penalties. That's what you'd expect at this stage of the season. Everyone's just well-versed, knows what to do to make it happen, got their software dialed in. Some software will kind of, if you release a little bit too early, it'll tell you how much to slow down and try not to break through in terms of the minimum stop time.
Doesn't look like either of these cars were held up at all in that stop, leaving about in the same order, or certainly the same order, but with about the same distance between them as they entered.
8.8, so here we go. This is kind of how they left the racetrack a little bit earlier, but with that pass by Mackay Stevens on James Clay, good in-lap. That has now given Colin Mullen the track position over the Murillo Racing car, with Shimshak now behind the wheel.
And it was a little bit of a slower stop, actually. That changeover from Clay to Galante was about 4 seconds over the minimum, so that is costly, cost them a position and a ton of track position as well. We'll see exactly where they shake out here in about 4 minutes when the window closes, but big gainers early at least, certainly Conquest, in part because of that bold move by Mackay Stevens.
Yeah, and that's big, because remember, and there you see it in the backdrop. Remember we talked about that 8-second gap that Clay had over Matt Travers. Well, now look at the gap. They're the 2 cars we're looking at in the backdrop there. That's Galante now with basically no gap over Jason Hart. So that comes down to just that strategy by bringing the Nola Sport Porsche in a little bit early, and then also a relatively slow start for the Bitmerol team.
Well, and again, the Nola Sport team had the benefit of the timing. When the pit window opened relative to their position on the track, the leader does not have to have the first opportunity to come to pit lane, unlike what it has been in previous years. So they just happened to be in a position where the window opened right as they were in this part of the racetrack here, and they could make that early call where the cars ahead of them could not.
Look at McAleer here. He's really stretching it out. So they're trying to use every possible minute of his stint here. He's been absolutely flying, keeping him out, running the risk of a yellow. But as you said, he's got a lap basically on the rest of the field. So whatever happens, even if there was a caution for some dramatic moment, they'd still be in great shape. So he's going to be turned over Toby Grahovic. And what a great day that would be for classic racing.
Hart was able to make up that spot moving around Galante and did so relatively easily, coming up onto the front straightaway through turn 14. It looked like Galante was able to close back into turn 1, but Hart fended him off, and this is where the Porsche should excel.
Yeah, I noticed that Galante's car is kind of rolling around a little bit. He's kind of struggling to keep the platform underneath him, and see that Porsche stand a little bit flatter through the curves. And that typically means that the contact patch of those Pirelli P0 is going to work a little bit better.
A couple of front runners making their pit calls now. The Dexter Racing team, Warren Dexter giving way to Ryan Dexter. Top 2 in AM also in the pit lane, Kevin Conway and Smooge Racing. That'll be John Jesbray taking over. Michael Miller will be giving over the second placed car, the Aston Martin from Automatic Racing. Paul Keebler, his co-driver. And they're making that change as we speak.
McAleer is going to have to pit. He didn't have enough time on the board to do another one, so he'll have to be in this lap from the lead.
Yep, just 97 seconds left in the pit window. You only have to be in the pit lane before that window expires.
Here he comes.
Yep, but I don't think you're right, they could not have done that one more time. So he makes the pit call now. The overall leader, Stephen McAleer, and Classic BMW for the last time. Fast Track Racing, as it will be known. And they come to the attention of the crew. Driver change underway.
2 wins on the year, and Toby just easily walks up to the car. No panic, just want to get in a nice routine. Some teams elect to have the driver help with this driver change. Others will have an assistant, kind of a trade-off here. Toby's been through this many times before. Team goes to work just bleeding out a little bit of those pressures in the front end. Probably means that they've Picked up a little bit of understeer, just trying to control that by bleeding those back down a bit.
Toby Grahovic, former touring car champion back in 2016. Behind the wheel now and looking for win number 3 on the season. They release him, and now the long drive down this lengthy pit lane, all at 50 kilometers per hour. It feels like it takes an eternity.
It does. It's a long, long front stretch here. And all of the time you're concerned, did we leave anything on the table? Did we cut it too fine? Of course, you got that 1 second joker to work with on day 1 or day 2 if you didn't use it on day 1, of course. But here you see Colin Mullen riding over those curbs. The steward said in the meeting this morning that you've got to kind of keep that inside curb at least touching some of the blue and white paint there, so you can't completely be straddling it, so they'll be looking at that one.
Movement in that car. He's wringing its neck, you can tell, sliding all over the racetrack. We'll see where he comes out relative to the BMW of Grahovic. Time on that pit stop, it was not great, Cal.
No, they gave up 2.5 seconds there. It seemed like an eternity, didn't it? He's like he's got to be gone. Well, he's only just released, but he'll maintain the track position, but certainly that gap has been diminished a little bit.
Now, the good news is they had built that massive gap, so they could afford to be conservative. At least it seems that way with 24 minutes on the clock, but Colin Mullen is awfully fast. We've seen that throughout the course of the season ever since this program got started. Oh, here's a moment. That's Jason Hart. Contact with the TRG Porsche, and around it goes. That was a bit earlier.
Yeah, we'll have to have another look at that one, see how that one developed, but certainly that was what they'll say avoidable contact. The stewards will take a look at it. Too early to have a good viewpoint on it.
That's the car Dr. Jim Rappaport shares with Todd Hetherington that we saw go for the spin. And back to Colin Mullen, who continues to run second overall, second in silver. In fact, as the pit stops have shuffled through, silver class cars now run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 overall. The leader in Pro-Am, it is Jason Hart. So they were able to use that strategy to perfection to jump up a couple of spots, gain some track position as well, and they now lead their class.
Yeah, now the concern is that contact, so we'll have to wait to see if there's any review being made on that moment. And right now our timing and scoring in our booth is showing that Carrillo was leading, but I think that doesn't account for his pit stop at the last moment. So this is the man who's leading right across the stripe there, Toby Grahovic. Then you see the gap all the way back there to Colin Mullen. And this is not only for overall, it is also for the silver positions. Top 5 right now are in the silver class.
But the gap is shrinking by about 1 second on that last tour of this 14-turn circuit. So Colin Mullen, he is on it at this stage, making inroads. The gap down under 11 seconds now.
Yeah, a lot of laps to go as well, so we'll see what develops here. We got about 12 more laps here in this race, so the way he's trimming into that lead right now could be game on before we see the checkered flag here this afternoon.
Here we go. This is John Jesbray who's up on the wheel of that Smooth Racing Toyota Supra. He's there mixing it up with the Pro-Am and Silver category cars, as he has done much of this season. Quite possibly the revelation of the 2021 season across all of the SRO America Championships. Had 1 year of racing anything in his CV coming into this weekend, or this year, I should say, going back to last year on MX5 Cup. That's all he had ever done. No karting, nothing.
Look at him flashing the lights. I love it. And as we said, the championship has been sealed and delivered. So many times this year, I'm sure they've been in similar situations, but had to be circumspect about what is the big picture. We've got to think about the championship points in the AM class, but right now that's done. Now they can just go racing and have some fun this weekend. As we said before, just see how they stack up with this tougher competition in the other classes.
Well, I think that was the best stint we've seen from Kevin Conway also this season, running right around that top 10 overall the entirety of his stint. And now John Jesbray's been given the reins, and he is pushing.
Oh, and he looks to the inside. A little bit late to the table there, but nonetheless, he's thinking about it.
But it still compromised the exit for Galante, and that's allowed Jesbray to pull up alongside. Very similar power plants in these two cars, despite the fact that it's a BMW and a Toyota.
Side draft from Galante. He's got the inside line and is stretching the gap a little bit.
Look at that, though. Two cars punching a hole in the air, and this lets John Miller into the picture.
Wow, that was deep, 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 and makes it stick just about. That was total commitment there by John Miller. Nice job, 2 for 1.
Awesome stuff. That's the car Chandler Hull started. Up 2 spots in one corner there into turn 1, and now he's off trying to chase down his next victim. Oh, big move up the inside. Valentin Hasseclos, who is a French Aston Martin Jr. driving alongside Paul Terry this weekend, announced his presence. First time ever in the U.S., period, is this weekend. He qualified on pole for race 2 tomorrow, and he's looking racy here.
He looks really racy. He's using every inch of the racetrack and a little bit more, and the man right behind him is Bill Auberlen. He's on the charge as well. And they'll probably be thinking, who's on board that car in front of me? I haven't seen anyone drive like that this year.
Now, Valentin won the French GT4 championship this season. That's already wrapped up. He is the reigning GT4 European Series Silver Cup champion. Raced in the Silver Cup in GT3 in the Total Energies 24 Hours of Spa as part of a young driver lineup for Aston Martin. It is going to be a name to keep an eye on. A 25-year-old from France. Paul Terry called up Aston, wanted a little help this weekend, and this is the gun they sent over.
Jesbray looking down the inside. He's not intimidated by the names that he's running around. Auberlen tucks it up the inside.
But he's balked there by the BMW of Galante. That opens the door for Hasseclos to get through.
But look at Auberlen, immediately switches over, read that perfectly. He could see it wasn't going to work, and then allowed the Aston Martin to open the door for him as well.
Fantastic stuff here, a little bit deeper in the pack. Hasseclos running now 8th, 2nd in Pro-Am. Auberlen 3rd in Pro-Am, and he's looking to make the move around the outside of the Frenchman.
Oh, he's in deep. Can he bring it together? No, he's in too deep.
Has to bail. There is an opportunity to rejoin just beyond this tire wall here. Oh boy. It was a little cleaner than I feared it might be.
Yeah. No, I could see he just took it in so deep. It's like if he can pull that one off, he's a magician.
Well, if anyone can do it, it's Bill Auberlen.
Well, the problem is the ABS just kicks in at a certain point, and then you're just along for the ride. It's taking brake pressure away, so you don't lock up the front wheels, but obviously you're not going to get to the apex.
Here comes John Jesbray working on Galante now. Got to the outside, but couldn't quite finish off the move with the way that the track comes back. Auberlen dropping a couple of wheels in the grass on the outside, headed onto Holman Boulevard here.
Well, thinking about the dynamic there down into turn 1, I think Auberlen was probably a little miffed by how much aggressive driving we were seeing with the defense from the Aston Martin, and just thought, no problem, I'll send it, but just missed it a little bit off the normal line as well in terms of the grip level available to him under braking.
By the way, we should note that up at the front, Colin Mullen has chopped the deficit down to about half of where it was before. Last lap, it was 6.5 seconds. We'll check it at the line here. And it has come down even further. 4.2 seconds now. The difference, not just the fight for the overall lead, but also the lead in the silver category.
Yeah, he's really taking big chunks out of that lead right now, so it's going to be hard for Toby to hang on to. But again, as some of the other drivers alluded to, it's late in the stint, but the BMW is going to back up a little bit. And that's where these Mercedes are so strong, it seems. And it seemed like the car, I think, in terms of the starting pressures, because Mackay really didn't get going in the first 2 or 3 laps, Ryan, and then suddenly he started to find his momentum, find his speed, and now that's been taken over by Colin Mullen as well in this second stint.
Yeah, running some really good lap times at this stage. Colin Mullen, the reigning Silver Cup champion in this series. Going back to last year in a McLaren that he shared with Jared Andretti. Kind of fitting that they clinched their championship here. Andretti Autosport, the Andretti name. Jared, the son of John.
Emotional year for the Andretti family.
Yeah, losing both John and Aldo Andretti. John's father, Mario's twin brother. Back to this fight. Valentin Hasseclos continuing the charge. He has now passed Cole Corallo. John Miller working on Ryan Dexter. That's Warren's younger brother. Gets up to the inside of the Aston, but not up alongside enough.
He got the mega front plow going on there, didn't he? He asked for a lot of front turn, and suddenly it just gave up on him, and he had to just kill all the speed to not get into the side of the Aston.
And these two better take notice of this WR Racing Aston that is closing in. That's a team that gets some support from Dexter Racing. They work under the same tent on a lot of weekends. But the young Frenchman, Valentin Hasseclos, I was excited to see what he could do in his first U.S. start, having seen him a little bit in Europe. And yeah, he is everything that was advertised.
Yeah, he's really aggressive, has great speed. Someone dive for pit lane there. But anyway, this Aston coming through here on the front straight. I'm trying to look at the gap between him and the leader, Jason Hart, and is coming down. I think he's running faster lap times than Jason Hart, so we'll try and give you an accurate reading here. So he's now 6.5 seconds behind Jason Hart. So we'll look at their lap times comparatively, see if there's a chance he can catch our Pro-Am leader.
And you were right, it was the Dexter car that came to pit lane right here. So problems for Ryan Dexter. He pits from just in front of that battle. He was running 5th overall, I believe, at the time of this pit stop. And this will drop him well down the order, but oh boy, it's going to be spicing up quickly in the battle for the lead. Toby Grahovic, now the gap down under 3 seconds to Colin Mullen, 2.3 seconds at the last speed trap.
Yeah, and Mullen's taken over a second a lap out of that gap, so he's just got to be patient here. But you never know, if there's a late caution, you could lose a lot of the race time that's available, so you don't want to hang about. You want to try and get to the tail and make the move early and then hang on if you can.
Just took another half second out in that second sector, closing in even further under the braking for turn 12. Now the left-hander of turn 13, which leads right back up onto oval turn 1, road course turn 14. And the dash to the Art of Bricks. It's worth noting, if it comes down to a drag race, the start-finish line is pretty close to the exit of turn 14 here on the road course. So you don't have a ton of time to get that drag race done. Update from the pit lane now, and Kyle.
Hi, Ryan. Was just chatting with Mackay Stevens, who was previously in the number 35 Mercedes for Conquest Racing West. He is extremely confident that Colin can get there, and after coming off of a sweep at Sebring a couple weeks ago, he says, we're always optimistic.
He's an optimistic guy. You can tell that in speaking with him. He's busy writing a lot of blogs, kind of chronicling his racing, his return to racing, and that kind of bleeds through. Saw in the background of that shot Eric Bachelard, the team owner who started the Indy 500 on a couple of occasions, and his team certainly was a fixture in that race for many, many years. Fight here, though, is on. Stephen Cameron Racing with a different driver lineup here this weekend. Really disappointed to have to bring the news that Greg Leofouge, a broken collarbone, had to sit this one out, so Tom Dyer filling in admirably this weekend.
Yeah, Quinlan Leofouge won a Sprint X Championship a couple of years ago and running second this year, but it's very tight in the points here. These final stand. Here goes Mullen. Looks to the inside. Grahovic gets his elbows out a little bit and defends. Former hockey player is going to have to use some of that kind of action, I feel, to defend from this Mercedes that's been cutting some really fast lap times here.
Even his hockey skills might not be enough with the pace that Colin Mullen has shown. We shall see. Toby Grahovic holding the lead, but Colin Mullen has closed in. The gap was over 11 seconds about 11 minutes ago. This is the gap now. Nice run out of turn 14. He'll be in the slipstream. Mercedes versus BMW down the front stretch at Indy.
Well, he's got the run, he's got the drop, but that's kind of neutralized there with the speed of the BMW. You see Toby stretches it out by at least a car length there, even though the Mercedes is in the draft. But again, that's all about balance of performance. You can't expect to be fast down the straightaway and fast through the corners, so that you're going to get that kind of ebb and flow, that concertina effect over the course of a lap.
Here's a look to the outside. Colin Mullen floats a lot of speed in, working around the outside. Turn 4, crosses over.
Oh, this is tough on Toby. He's just being worked over right now. Mullen's got so much confidence in that Mercedes underneath him.
Toby goes defensive here. This is a long duration, sweeping left-handed corner. Now this jerk to the right here is crucial.
Oh, don't throw it all away, Colin. I mean, you just got to time this. There shouldn't be any need for a risky move at this stage. He's got pace. You know, you can see Shimshak's in the shadows there. I mean, theoretically, he could start to put some pressure on from behind, but I would think you got a good 2 or 3 laps here. You can just kind of figure this one out and just try and execute a nice, clean move without doing a late dive down the inside.
Top 3 in silver. They're the top 3
There you go.
overall. Here he comes to the inside. This is going to be tight, but Toby gives him room.
Yeah, but he's over that inside curb, and if you read into the rule book or into the steward's notes before the meeting, you're not supposed to straddle that, so we'll wait and see what they say. Did he take advantage with that track limits there to make that position stick?
And that does change the whole trajectory through that corner. It really helps you get flat and stay flat early in the portion that comes up onto the banking if you can use that part to the inside of the curbs there.
Wait and see. Looked like a nice clean move, but let's take a look at it and watch his right side tires. They're saying that some part of your inside tire has to be still up on the curb, and I don't know. I don't want to point a finger, but I'd say that's taking advantage a little bit.
Yeah, if that is the letter of the law, I would have to agree. But for now, Colin Mullen out in front, and Toby Grahovic no chance to rest because Christian Shimshak has arrived. Should update you that Jason Hart now leads in Pro-Am, but he's got the hard-charging Valentin Haseclo right behind, or closing in, I should say, about 6 seconds adrift. Then John Miller, who runs 4th in silver, 6th overall, and John Jesbray continuing to lead in Am, now currently back a little bit further in the order, 15th overall.
Yeah, and I think Jason Hart has responded, our Pro-Am leader. He just ran his fastest lap of the race, so him and Haseclo, that gap really hasn't changed much. We talked about it a few minutes ago, and it was 6.5 seconds. It's now about 6, so he's not catching him at a rapid rate. Here comes Shimshak, looking to the inside, gives it up. Grahovic has traffic to deal with. I think for Shimshak, he could see that traffic up ahead there and could see that sense it could maybe get a little bit ugly as well if they went 3 into that corner.
John Barry in just his 3rd ever GT4 start at the professional level. That was the capstone car that had the issues with the pedal box at the start of the race. Less than 10 minutes to go. Let's go down and get an update from the pits and Kyle.
The Smooge Racing number 68 is currently leading the M category, 15th overall. Standing here with Kevin Conway, who jumped in the car at the start. Still leading, Kevin. Things are looking really good. What would it mean to you to win at the Brickyard?
Man, to win at Indianapolis Motor Speedway is, I think, every racer's dream, right? You want to stand on that iconic podium, and man, Smooge Racing has given us another epic Toyota Supra, and we're really excited about the opening stint. We had a good opening stint, and John's done an awesome job to maintain that lead and actually build that lead over 2nd place, and really just try to maintain and hold out here at the end. We've got about 8 minutes or so to go, so hopefully we can bring it home for Jesbray Group, Cooper Natural Resources, and Toyota.
Only a couple minutes left for the number 68 Smooge Racing Supra, guys.
What a great season it's been for them. Showing up, I think everyone just wanted to know, what is a smooge? And we found out that John Jesbray, I guess, as an infant, was a little bit on the larger side. That was a nickname, but here we go, fight for 2nd.
Shimshak trying to make it stick. Goes out really wide there to give Toby a little bit of racing room. But I think he's going to have the inside line for this next right-hander coming up, and away he goes.
So gives 2nd overall and in silver to Murillo Racing, the champions-elect in that class. But Toby Grahovic strengthened that BMW in a straight line, able to at least put the challenge on into turn 7.
Trying to hang with him, but it just seems like those Mercedes late in the going here just have a little bit more bite through the corners. And that corner there, we talked about maybe Colin Mullen kind of using the inside of that curb there to good effect. Toby's kind of doing it by himself right now, so maybe that team, Conquest Racing, will be pointing at that to say, well, he's doing it every lap now, so what's the big drama about us using it to grab the lead?
This is the leader, though, Colin Mullen, looking to put together a 3rd consecutive overall win. And, you know, as good of a season as it's been, obviously, for the champions in the silver class, look at the performance late in the year, and the flag bearer for Mercedes in this series has shifted, right? It started out with the Murillo car, without a doubt, but you look at what Conquest has done over the 2nd half of the year, and they're making the case that if this program is back in this same form, and we expect that to be the case next year, they might come in with the favorite tag.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it's such a good car. I mean, it's so user-friendly. I think it's in my mind anyway, it seems to have a big sweet spot in terms of the setup. You never really seem to see a Mercedes team really struggling in any particular circuit. So that's what you're looking for, that car that's good everywhere we run, good in all of the various components of a racetrack. Maybe struggles a little bit, maybe compared to the BMW down the straightaway, but overall for the lap, very, very tough to beat.
Pro-Am leader here, Jason Hart. Great pit strategy from them that we chronicled early. First pit callers among the front runners, running just inside the top 10 overall. And down the order slightly in class at the time, but now champions-elect there. Jason Hart and Matt Travis running 4th overall and with the lead in Pro-Am. The chasing car is the car flashing those headlights just a little bit further back in the shot. Valentin Haseclo, WR Racing, Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's now down to about 5.5 seconds, so he is, it's now under 5 seconds, so he is closing it a little bit.
But he's got some traffic to contend with.
Well, he's got some,
Cook
speed right behind him as well, so as fast as he is, Kenton Cook is on the charge as well, running 3rd in class. This is now a battle for that runner-up position, so we're focusing on Haseclo and his charge through the field and closing on the gap to the leader Hart, but Kenton Cook has had a big charge here.
Well, this is a great advertisement for the skill of Kenton Cook, because I think Aston Martin thinks incredibly highly of Haseclo. He's part of their academy, Young Driver Academy. And Kenton Cook has given him everything he can ask for and then some. Kenton, of course, has the advantage. He's raced here before, albeit in a slightly different configuration, going back to last year, and knows the team, knows the car, etc. But still, showing great pace, and again, he's another one of those guys, kind of like Stevens and Mullen. And spin right in front of them. There's Paul Keebler going around. But Cook was a guy who we weren't quite sure what his future looked like, and this B-Sport Racing team that he helps to manage, along with his wife on behalf of his co-driver Brian Putt, the team owner, it's really been a great opportunity for him to showcase his ability.
Well, significantly, they come into this race just 3 points behind Sean Quinlan and Greg Leafuge. Leafuge not being here, so basically 3 points behind Sean Quinlan for second in the championship. And right now they have a 4-point swing to their advantage the way they run as of now. So if he could get that next position with that Aston Martin in front of him, that'd be a 6-point swing and give them a 3-point lead going into tomorrow.
The Quinlan car that you referenced, now driven by Tom Dyer, just at the back of that picture there, the orange and blue Stephen Cameron Racing BMW, running 5th in class.
Yeah.
Great minds think
Look
alike.
at Cook, he's really carving these corners. His car looks really strong, so Brian Putt did a really nice job in the opening stint. Left a bit of life in those Pirelli P0s for Ken to go on the attack here late. Look at the move he's making to the outside. Wow.
That's in the braking zone for turn 12, but can't quite stay up alongside through turn 13.
He's rolling huge speed through there.
Kenton Cook trying to snag second away.
Should be 2 more laps, I think. The leader may be getting the white flag next time, but it'll be tight.
And until that lap, these two had been collectively running down Jason Hart, but they lost nearly a second fighting between themselves. So that definitely will help Hart consolidate his lead in the Pro-Am class, 4th on the road, behind the top 3 in the silver category.
Well, I think for Haseclo, he may have abused his tires a little bit because he's not able to roll speed like he was earlier in the race. And that was demonstrated by how Kenton had that big run on him into turn 12. I think he's having to overslow the car a little bit, otherwise he's losing the balance.
Great battle here in the waning moments of the second to last race of the season. Valentin Haseclo, the newcomer. Kenton Cook, the series veteran, moving to the outside. This is the run down Holman Boulevard. Big braking zone awaits at the end of this straightaway.
Yeah, you can just see Haseclo kind of bobbling in the middle of the corners here. He's just having to arrest that speed a little bit. He recognized the car's not going to give it to him. It's going to give up on him. So he's just kind of controlling his apex speed a little bit. But this track is so raceable. You can take these kind of variety of racing lines here and make a move stick potentially.
Turn 10, crucial to get down to the power quickly. Spits you back out briefly onto the oval before diving back for turn 12. That's where Kenton made his move the last time. But up front, here we go. Do we see the white flag? We do. The white flag waves for Colin Mullen out in front,
There
but
we
here
go.
comes Kitten Cook to the inside of Hasseklo and give him second spot.
That is awesome. That turn 13 is a legitimate passing opportunity on this racetrack. There's not many people have tried it, but everyone who does has a 50-50 shot of making it stick, it seems like.
It's not done yet, though. Hasseklo in the slipstream. Kenton Cook goes defensive. Aston Martin versus Aston Martin. Front straightaway at IMS. Headed down to the heavy braking zone of turn number 1. Cook late on the brakes. Same for Hasseklo. Can he stay up alongside? No.
You can see it there. Just when he asks for a little bit more right now in that 59 Aston Martin, it just gives up on him. He asked for a late break and a late turn in. The front end just washed on him a little bit, had to wait on the throttle. But he's going to give it everything here. It's been a tremendous debut for him. And Paul Terry will be very happy with his teammate here, but he wants that runner-up position. But I think Cook has got a little bit too much for him right now.
And remember that blue, red, and yellow Aston will start on the pole tomorrow, courtesy of a great qualifying effort for Hasseklo. But he's not concerned about that right now. On to Holman Boulevard for the final time. Not close enough, it appears, to challenge Kitten Cook, who took away that second spot just a few moments ago.
I think Hasseklo will have learned a lot in terms of this Pirelli P0 tire and this format here in terms of how hard you can push. So I think tomorrow he'll obviously want to try and get the jump at the start, grab the class lead, but then manage those tires a little bit better for his teammate.
Here we are, the overall leaders. Leader in the silver class, Colin Mullen. Strong opening stint from Mackay Stevens. Mullen onto the front straightaway, and Conquest Racing wins at Indy. Christian Shimshak will follow him across the line. The champion in the silver class finishes second here in the second to last race of the season, 3.7 seconds behind. Here's your Pro-Am leader, the champions in that class, already locked in coming into the weekend. And NOLA Sport picks up the victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And Kenton Cook celebrating a hard-fought second just ahead of Valentin Hasseklo, who wraps up that class podium. Here we go to the AM class fight. John Jesbray has the lead. That's the car at the back of this picture. He and Kevin Conway, Smooge Racing, in their first season, pick up yet another race win, this time at Indianapolis.
Tremendous stuff from all of our champions. Strong, strong runs here today. There's battles throughout this field everywhere.
Yeah, this is for second, I think, in AM. Give it to the Keebler car ahead of Ty Isaac in the Zalus car. And Forbush was very much in the mix as well in the Supra. Everyone there crossing the line very close together. Isaac holding off Forbush by less than half a second for the final podium spot in the AM class.
The position that's tight is in that silver class. Is currently second position held by the number 22 CCR BMW. The 13-point swing coming in. Just 4 points taken out of that by this Grahovic-McAleer duo. So they really needed the win here. It wasn't to be. Otherwise, it could have been super tight tonight. So they've got a bit of work to do tomorrow if they're going to think about grabbing second in the championship.
Yeah, these two start back in 18th for race 2 tomorrow. But CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race here for the Fast Track Racing team. That'll be the new name for this program moving forward, although it's always been the racing arm of Classic BMW. Nice podium run. I'm sure they'd love the win, but great pace there in the opening stint from Stephen McAleer. These are the race winners, and you see the Farrow on the side of this Mercedes. And John Farrow, the Canadian businessman, he's really the one behind this program. A motorsport enthusiast, a track day enthusiast. He's got a lot of laps behind the wheel of this car himself, but he wanted to support young up-and-coming drivers who had the talent but not the opportunity. He put that shootout together, and Colin Mullen and Mackay Stevens, I think, have repaid him several times over with the pace they've shown, and now a third straight overall win.
Yeah, he certainly made some great choices, didn't he, in terms of the team led by Eric Bachelat and that crew and the two drivers. Tremendous stuff. 3 on the bounce here, 3 on the trot is pretty formidable with the amount of competition in this field.
And another great performance from this team. Again, not the best qualifying effort, but we've seen them overcome that time and time again this season. Matt Travis, Jason Hart, such a good pairing, and NOLA Sport, as good of a Porsche prep shop as you will find in the country. Again, we saw The graphic there, John Jesbrake, Kevin Conway winners. We heard from Kevin earlier talking about the significance of winning here at Indianapolis. Doesn't matter what car you're in, it's something special to pull into victory lane at this place. Final results, provisional at least, for Pirelli GT4 America, second to last race of the season. This is how they came across the Arctic Bricks.
There's some great racing there. Mercedes look awfully strong. Let's see if they can repeat tomorrow, or if the other team can do some homework tonight and come back a little bit stronger. Chances of some rain tomorrow as well, so that will be a different track to race on for sure.
Now, these teams at least got a chance to sample the track in the wet yesterday during one of the practice sessions. There was a brief downpour, and it was right in the middle of the Pirelli GT4 America session. So they at least have some idea of what to expect if the forecasted rain does arrive, but we hope it stays away for a nice day for track activities as well as the parade that's set to go on in downtown Speedway, Indiana, just outside of the confines of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That is scheduled for tomorrow. Here's a nice show of sportsmanship. Christian Shimshak, the veteran, congratulating the up-and-comer Colin Mullen, who's about to get a big hug, I suspect, from his co-driver Mackay Stevens. Here's Brian Putt with the hat on, celebrating with Kenton Cook. John Jesbrake out of the car as well. Let's hear from our race winners now with Kyle.
The number 35 is on a mission at Sebring and now at the Brickyard. Colin Mullen and Mackay Stevens are victorious at Indianapolis. Colin, you brought the car home. Take me through your day and the stint that you had in passing the race leader.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's just another testament to the car and the this Mercedes AMG and all the work the JMF Motorsports and Conquest Racing Group has put into it. Our main strength here is definitely tire management, and you can see it over the course of the stint. We may not be the quickest car at the very start, but this Mercedes is so good on its Pirelli tires, we just keep reeling them in lap after lap. But again, huge thank you to Eric Bachelart and John Farrow for assembling such an amazing group of people here. Really makes us able to go out and fight for the race wins out there. And it's pretty amazing to do it, 3 in a row, and hopefully tomorrow it can be 4 in a row. But amazing job so far.
And Mackay, you were in the car at the start, a pretty frantic start and a track layout that is relatively new. Tell me what that was like, starting in a pack this big and a track layout so unknown.
Yeah, very fun. Very, very fun, entertaining. I mean, massive amount of respect to all the competitors out there, which I think is what makes this series so beautiful. So Colin, myself, everybody from JMF, Conquest Racing, we're just all very fortunate to be a part of the series. We're living, we're learning every time we go out there. And if we can continue to push things forward, then that would be quite the pleasure. So we just appreciate everybody's hardship out here and having a great time.
Conquest Racing in victory lane once again, guys.
What a great pairing. Colin Mullen, an engineering student at Ohio State University, just down I-70 from here at Indianapolis. Pretty easy drive for him. And Mackay Stevens, who I said earlier, he was out of racing for a while and might have thought his career was done. Spent some time working at a fine art and furniture conservation company in Chicago for a number of years. Also worked construction for a while and just had to find a way back in, and this was the chance, and he has seized it.
Well, they're two amazing talents that at times you can see your career and maybe it's all slipped through the net and someone catches you, and just a great effort. I mean, showcasing how much ability they have, how much speed they have, what a great team they have underneath them. And again, Mercedes looks good here for the weekend.
That they do. Beautiful shot of the Speedway. Kyle, buckle up. You're about to talk to two of the more interesting interviews in the paddock, I suspect, if we've got our Pro-Am winners lined up with Matt Travis and Jason Hart. Best of luck, bud. Sorry about that. I guess we got the AMs here. Let's go to you, Kyle. Doesn't sound like we've got Kyle, so we'll hopefully check in with him. I don't blame him if he went for the AMs first. You never quite know what you're going to get with Jason and Matt. They're a fun-loving bunch. They like their movie quotes. And you got to come in prepared for that interview. Hopefully we get the mic situation sorted out. What a team this has proven to be, and I'm super excited to see what they do in the 8-hour in the GT4 class with Jack Hawksworth on board and the Riley Motorsports pit crew ready to go to work for the pit stops in that endurance race.
Well, there's a lot of savvy people down there working for them this weekend, so they could pull a bit of a shock there in the GT4 class of the 8-hour this weekend. So Toyota looks good. I think it's going to be good on the tires. You've got to do a little bit longer stint, 65 minutes. So we'll wait and see what happens, but I'm excited to see Hawksworth, how he blends in with that group, what sort of pace he can show. And you know he's never afraid to get his elbows out if there's a race win on the line.
Amazingly, I think this will be his first time in a GT4 car, certainly his first time racing one. And it sounds like he's been waiting for that chance. Hopefully we'll be able to check in with the race winners here momentarily, and already a chance to get down and kiss those bricks, a tradition that actually started with the NASCAR race here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I think 1998 was the year Dale Jarrett won the Brickyard 400 and took Todd Parrott and the rest of that crew out there, and it's something that's been mimicked ever since by anyone who has had the pleasure of winning at this place.
There's Eric Bashel out there, the Belgian former racer himself, great racer, and now a great team leader. He celebrates with his boys. Murillo Racing, that's Kenny Murillo Sr. there. Congratulating the winners on the day. They'll dig deep, they'll work on that car, and they were coming. I mean, it's not like the Conquest car just took off from them. I mean, Shimshek had a nice strong run there at the end.
Certainly did. Good pace out of that machine. Sounds like we've got the microphone functioning once again, and our AM winners are standing by with Kyle.
The Smooge Racing Toyota Supra is in its first season of competition in the AM category, and now both John Jesbray and Kevin Conway are winners at Indianapolis. John, you finished up the car. You're hot, you're sweaty, you just got out. A lot of great work there. Congratulations. What's it like winning at Indianapolis?
Thank you. Well, it's probably one of the most historic tracks we've been to besides Sebring, but the history of Indy specifically, like the Yard of Bricks, is like, for me, there's no better place to win than Indy. And the massive straights are super fun. Getting into turn one, like 155, it's an awesome experience. And the Supra has incredible brakes, and it's just like rips your face off each time you brake. So I'm very happy with how the car performed today. It was flying towards the end. And but yeah, I mean, the experience of winning at Indy is above anything else.
Might take a little while for it to sink in. Kevin, you were in the car earlier. Now you jumped out and got to watch the team car win again. Take me through your feelings here winning at Indy.
Winning at Indy and any series is very, very special, and for us to be able to continue our streak of winning at every racetrack we've been to this year, to be able to kind of crown that at Indianapolis Motor Speedway it's a racer's dream, you know, to be able to win here. And it's one of the first things I asked John when he got out. I said, "Are you going to go up and we're going to go kiss the bricks?" And we're like, "Absolutely." You don't get a lot of opportunities to win at Indianapolis. Anytime you do, it's very special. And just to be able to see the progress that this kid has made all year long, and this whole team has just gotten better and better and better each week as we continue to learn more about this GR Supra GT4 race car. But really excited to be here at Indy, and we have the opportunity to focus tomorrow, learn a lot about the car today, we can take into the race tomorrow, and also for the 8-hour on Sunday.
Smooge Racing in victory lane once again, guys.
Great performance once again from that team, and a lot of pride on the face of Kevin Conway. He's a family friend of the Jesbrays and has shepherded John along, and I think it gives him as much joy to see John succeed as anything else.
Yeah, it's a very cool dynamic when you are mentoring someone, tutoring someone, and seeing them rise to the occasion in terms of the speed, but also the pressure of the situation.
All right, let's hear from our Pro-Am winners and champions-elect with Kyle.
Matt Travis and Jason Hart winning in Pro-Am. Already had the championship locked up, but now it's just icing on the cake to win here at Indianapolis. Jason, your experience today winning at Indianapolis.
A little bit of unfinished business from last year. We really wanted to get the win, or a win here this year. Something that's really cool about Matt and I is there are days that I feel like he carries the car to the win, and there's the days that I feel like I carry, or he feels I carry the car to the win. A very fair statement, and that's what's really cool about our driving program. And really, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just summed up by saying, if you don't like Big Red, then French fries. You thought it was coming.
I did.
Say something, come on.
I'm too drunk to taste this chicken.
There you go.
Anyways, killer day, win at Indy. Like, who doesn't want to win at Indy? Are you kidding me? Like, every time you go across the bricks, boom, you're like, man, this is cool. You get like little tingles every freaking lap. It's so cool.
It's awesome.
Big smiles on their faces. Thank you, Kyle. Congratulations on surviving your first interview with those two. I did it for a couple of years, so You never quite know what you're going to get, but a fun-loving bunch. And I think Jason's comments were really on point. Today, it was his turn, but we have seen Matt carry the load before. As we take a look at the highlights from the race today, didn't take long to fan out there at the start, did it?
It didn't, and McAleer there from the pole certainly showed impressive pace there during his opening stint. James Clay up on the wheel early as we expected, and Tim Barber was making some strong moves, but couldn't quite make them stick on that opening lap.
No, but here they come, funneling into turn one. Couple of cars bouncing over curves. There was some contact there. GMG Racing Aston going around off the front of the Random Vandals Racing BMW. We did have a full course yellow as well. This was the ensuing restart. Stephen McAleer out front, and he accelerated away in this great battle between Warren Dexter and Tim Barber.
Yeah, there were some fantastic battles here, and then that Mercedes from Conquest Racing just came alive. Mackay Stevens during his stint. This is a move on James Clay. Big move here. This is Bill Aublin trying to get around that WR Racing. Aston Martin just takes it a little bit too deep, has to take to the escape road.
Ultimately had to settle for a 9th place finish overall, 5th in class. It was a good run for the Dexter Racing crew. They were right in the mix until having to pull into the pit lane late. And the checkered flag flew after 60 minutes for Conquest Racing here at Indy. That race to the line and a couple of other classes. Smooth Racing taking the win in AM, and a lot of happy faces at the foot of the famous pagoda at IMS celebrating victory here at this famed racing facility. Still one more day of action for Pirelli GT4 America to go. The season concludes tomorrow. We hope you join us for it. There might be some rain to spice things up as well. But here in the second to last race of the season, Colin Mullen, Mackay Stevens, and Conquest Racing reign supreme.
We're going to begin our podium ceremonies with our silver category, and I'd like to welcome up our third place finishers, driving for Classic BMW, Stephen McAleer and Toby Grahovic. Finishing in the second position, driving for Murillo Racing and a Mercedes AM. Shimshak. And victorious once again for the Conquest Racing West team and Mercedes AMG, your winners, Mackay Stevens and Colin Mullen. Amazing job by our silver competitors. Fantastic racing all weekend long so far. Hold those trophies up nice and high for our photographers here. Wonderful job again to our silver category. Now it's time to spray the champagne, and don't forget to go see your friends and family down at the edge of the podium. Once again, round of applause, your silver podium finishers, Classic BMW with Stephen McAleer and Toby Grahovic. Murillo Racing comes in second with Kenny Murillo and Christian Shimshak. And winners, Conquest Racing West and Mercedes AMG for Mackay Stevens and Colin Mullen. Wonderful job. We'll reset, and up next will be our Pro-Am podium. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for the Pro-Am podium, and let's welcome up our third-place finishers driving for WR Racing and Aston Martin, Paul Terry and Valentin Husklo. Finishing in second, also in an Aston Martin for B Sport Racing, Brian Putt and Kenton Cook. And taking victory for NOLA Sport, your Pro-Am champions for 2021, Matt Travis and Jason Hart. Wonderful job for our Pro-Am podium finishers for race 1 here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Fellas, let's grab those trophies, hold them up high. Oh, he went early. Okay, let's try that again. Did you get the photo? You didn't get any photos. All right, backwards. We sprayed the champagne. Now let's take the photo and hold the trophies. Wonderful job as they drip from champagne on the podium. Your Pro-Am podium finishers, round of applause for WR Racing, B Sport Racing, and NOLA Sport. We'll try this again, guys, for our AM podium up next. All right, it's time for our AM podium for race 1 in the Pirelli GT4 America Championship. Let's welcome up third place finishers for Zalus Motorsports, Sean Whalen and Ty Isaac. Finishing in the second position, driving for Automatic Racing, Paul Keebler and Michael Miller. And victorious for the Smooge Racing Camp in a Toyota Supra, John Jesbray and Kevin Conway. Wonderful job to our AM podium finishers. Grab the trophies, guys. No champagne first. We'll make that clear. And we'll hold those trophies up nice and high for some photos. All right, now. You may now spray the champagne and sparkling cider. Round of applause for your AM podium finishers, Sean Whalen and Ty Isaac, Paul Keebler and Michael Miller, and John Jesbray and Kevin Conway. Another victory for the Smooge Racing and Toyota team.